All right, today we are jumping into a really fascinating medical puzzle. It's a story about how the body's own hormone factory can go completely haywire, creating symptoms that look wildly different depending on when in your life they show up. We're going to solve the mystery of adrenal virilism.
So, let's start with a bit of a riddle, right? What could possibly connect a kid hitting puberty way too early with an adult struggling with infertility? They seem like they're from completely different worlds. Well, the answer is a single, powerful syndrome, and we're about to piece all the clues together.
So our first clue can pop up literally at birth. For female infants, this condition can cause what's known as ambiguous genitalia. Talk about a dramatic first sign that the body's hormonal signals are just completely scrambled. Okay, clue number 2 shows up in childhood. A kid might suddenly have this massive growth spurt and show signs of puberty way too early. But here's the paradox. This early start doesn't mean they'll be a taller adult. Actually, if it's left untreated, it can make their growth plates fuse ahead of schedule, which means they can end up with a shorter final height.
And our third clue? This one surfaces in adult women. The symptoms here are what doctors call virilization, basically the development of masculine characteristics. And this can be a whole range of things, from acne and male pattern baldness, all the way to a deepening voice, more muscle mass, and even changes to the reproductive system.
So, with all these clues on the table, where is this hormonal chaos even coming from? Well, all the evidence points to a pair of tiny little glands that sit right on top of your kidneys, the adrenals.
And boom, here's our culprit, adrenal virilism. At its core, it's a syndrome caused by one simple but really powerful problem. The adrenal glands are pumping out way too many androgens, which you probably know as male hormones. This one single malfunction is the root cause of all those different symptoms we just saw.
But, just identifying the culprit isn't enough for us. We need to understand the motive. Why are the adrenal glands going into this crazy overdrive? Turns out there are two main reasons this can happen. So think of it like this. We've got two main suspects in our lineup. The first is an androgen-secreting tumor, just a rogue growth that's gone wild and is churning out hormones totally uncontrollably. The second is something called adrenal hyperplasia, which is an inherited genetic defect. It's basically like a mistake in the factory's assembly line instructions that you're born with. Now, that genetic condition, the hyperplasia, can be a little tricky. See, sometimes the inherited defect is only partial, so the body can kind of compensate for it for years, which means a person might not show any symptoms at all until they're an adult. This is what's known as delayed adrenal hyperplasia. Okay, let's look closer at that production line error. Imagine an assembly line, right? Step 1, a key enzyme, a little worker, basically, is missing. A really common one is called 21-hydroxylase. Step 2, because that worker isn't there, the factory can't make its main product, which is supposed to be cortisol. Step 3, this causes a huge traffic jam of all the raw materials, the precursor chemicals. And finally, step 4, the body, trying to clear the jam, just shunts all those extra parts down a different assembly line, the one that makes androgens. So the factory starts making the wrong thing in massive quantities. So now we know our two potential causes. It's either a tumor or it's a genetic defect. How in the world do doctors figure out which one it is? This is where the medical detective work really gets cool, because there are specific tests to unmask the true culprit. First things first, you gotta check the evidence in the blood. Doctors will measure the levels of specific adrenal androgens and their precursors, things like DHEAS and 17-hydroxyprogesterone. If these are super high, it confirms the adrenal glands are definitely in overdrive.
But here it is, the key to cracking the case, the dexamethasone suppression test. What doctors do is give the patient a synthetic steroid that acts just like cortisol. The logic is so simple. If the problem is hyperplasia, that factory error, this external signal should tell the overactive system to calm down. A tumor, on the other hand, it doesn't listen to any signals. It's completely rogue.
And the results are just beautifully clear. If the androgen levels drop after the test, we say they've been suppressed, and that points directly to hyperplasia. But if those androgen levels stay high, showing no suppression at all, well, the culprit is almost certainly a tumor. It's just a wonderfully decisive piece of diagnostic work.
So once the case is cracked and we know the cause, we get to the final chapter, the resolution. And because the two causes are so different, well, their solutions are just as distinct.
This really lays out the clear path forward.
Since the tumor is an autonomous growth that doesn't listen to signals, it needs to be surgically removed. But since hyperplasia is a system imbalance that does respond to signals, it can be managed with medication. It's just a really logical path from diagnosis all the way to treatment.
The treatment for hyperplasia is actually wonderfully elegant. Remember that missing final product from the assembly line, cortisol? Well, the solution is to just give the body what it can't make. By giving a medication like hydrocortisone, you replace that missing cortisol. This sends a signal back to the brain to stop yelling at the adrenal glands, which effectively shuts down all that excess androgen production. It's brilliant.
And for a tumor, the solution is just as logical, but a lot more direct. Since the tumor is its own independent hormone-making machine, you can't talk it down with medication. You have to physically take it out through a surgery called an adrenalectomy.
So, after following all the clues from symptom to diagnosis to treatment, what's the big picture here? What is the final lesson we can take away from solving this hormonal puzzle?
Let's just quickly recap the crucial points. 1. Adrenal virilism all comes down to an excess of androgens. 2. It's caused by one of two things, either a rogue tumor or an inherited production error. 3. A really clever diagnostic test can definitively tell them apart. And 4. This allows for a treatment, either surgery or medication, that is tailored precisely to fix the specific underlying problem.
Ultimately, this whole medical mystery is just a powerful reminder of how our sense of self, everything from our appearance to our fertility, depends on this delicate chemical ballet that's being conducted by tiny glands we almost never think about. It shows how one single missing enzyme can literally change a life, and it really makes you wonder, what other secrets are our bodies keeping?